Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about high grade premiums. That BGS 10 Charizard is so juicy, we got to talk about it again. For those who missed it, recently a black label BGS 10 Charizard GX from Hidden Fates, the newest set in Pokemon, sold for $10,000. And that's a great example of a high grade premium, simply someone who's willing to spend a premium for a high grade. And what I want to do here is a deep dive into this perspective. People who say, I only collect PSA 10s, I only want the highest grade of cards. I think that idea can be very unexamined, and I'm going to try to dissect that and illustrate the value of that perspective. Remember, price is what you pay, value is what you get, and I'm going to throw some examples at you where it makes sense to pay the high grade premium, and some where if you paid the high grade premium, you might have a bad time. But let me preface all this by saying that it's your money, your choice as a consumer. If you want to pay 10 grand for this Pikachu, for this lenticular Deoxys, or this Sharpie, or the even bigger Sharpie that I have lying on my desk, anything that I have lying on my desk, or whatever it is, it's your choice as a consumer. But again, just trying to illustrate the value and give you some context for this perspective of only collecting high grades. So I think naturally for collectors, you want to maximize your nostalgia, maximize your value. If you're trying to get this Pikachu, you want all of that chubby nostalgia Pikachu. You want to capture all that aesthetic beauty, so you're probably going to go after the high grade. However, if the highest grade is 10 times more than the one below, and the only difference is the one below has one speck of whitening in the corner, it really puts into perspective, what are you paying for at the end of the day? What's the value of that high grade? More importantly, when there are hundreds of copies of PSA 10, is it worth that premium? Where if you contrast this with something like first edition base set Charizard, currently there are 0 black label BGS 10s of that card 20 years later. Pre-release Clefable, 20 years later, 0 PSA 10 copies. Wayne Gretzky Rookie, 1979, 40 years later, you have 2 PSA 10 examples. Therefore, these are great items to illustrate how they're difficult to grade. They're something that there is actually a challenge. Data has proven that these are cards that are very difficult to grade, and when you have enough numbers in the pop report, you can get a really good estimate, really good impression of the ratio of what you can expect when you pull a card, not only from a pack or just find one in a collection. So those are examples that make sense. You're paying a premium for something that's proven to be difficult to grade. Now, zooming over here to the other side, don't worry, we're about to hit Charizard GX, but before that, we have to stop off at Mega Full Art Charizard from Evolutions. In 2016, during the release, when it was Pop 1, early days for that Charizard, the price was $500. And for people who just heard that, they're like, wait, why did you add an extra 0 to the price? Because that's what it was earning. Where today, it's a tenth of that. It's $50 to $75. 2,000 PSA 10 copies later, it's now $50 to $75. And that's a great example where if you do PSA 10 or bust, PSA 10 only, and you had that perspective in the beginning and you bought during release, you could have saved $450 waiting to today to buy that same exact card with the same exact grade. So there's a very easy general contrast. Now, Charizard GX on that scale there, where it's going to fall for me is very close to Evolution's Charizard. I think this thing that saves and separates Charizard GX from the Mega Full Art is that it is, I think, more difficult to pull. However, I think the condition is at least the same, if not slightly better. So, to really contextualize this, that Black Label Charizard GX was the fastest Black Label ever to hit the market in Pokemon. Ever. In 23 years. Within 6 days, you had a card with the highest possible grade not only hit the market, but sell at the same pace, if not slightly faster than a PSA 10 example. It's unprecedented how quickly that was graded and hit the market. More specifically, the limited availability, the allocated availability of Hidden Fates only exacerbates how the condition is much more gradable than something in the vintage era. So therefore, there's inherently more speculation to that purchase when you're paying for the high grade premium. Now, another thing I want to give you, a little topic within the topic, is separating the idea between older, rare, mint, or better. That's always my general rubric. Older, rare, mint, or better. These are all cornerstones or pillars of trying to ascertain value. And in my opinion, the most self-evident, consistent piece of that equation is rarity. Rarity is self-evident and it doesn't change. Whether you're talking about something like this Holy Grail Nintendo Gold cart, Gold Pikachu, any of these other items back here, the rarity to them is self-contained. The worst case scenario is maybe a staff member had a couple copies. They might hit the market. That's either an argument from exception. Either way, it's negligible. Where when you're chasing condition, the minter aspect, a lot more subjectivity, a lot more nuance. So going into this and analyzing this further, the best way to talk about condition is to understand that when you're buying a card, you're buying the card first and the condition second. And I think people who say, I only want PSA 10, they're just going for PSA 10. They just see a general PSA 10. This isn't really as relevant. Where the order of operation should be the item, and then the condition is the qualifier of the item. Now, when you're talking about that qualification, I'm not someone who's trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Grading is absolutely a necessity in the modern market. You need third-party grading. It's way better than the Wild West of what it was in the 80s. However, there's inherent subjectivity here, especially when you're talking something like Black Label. So what you have to rely on when you're collecting condition is that the company that applies a condition maintains the same consistency, which we all know it wavers up and down because we're all human at the end of the day. That's natural. However, these top companies, PSA and BGS, if only they weren't paying their new graders $15 an hour. I wish that was an exaggeration, but it's true. If they would actually pay for quality, I would be more inclined to support this idea of just blindly chasing condition, because I know the inner workings and I know examples like with the Charizard GX, people submitted some to Beckett and they were denied as being altered. A card that this person had in their hand for less than a day was somehow meticulously altered and sent to BGS. It's a card that's not even a week old. Multiple times they denied cards as being altered. I mean, that's incompetence. And that's what you have to deal with when you chase condition. Where again, contrasting that with rarity, the rarity of first edition base isn't going to change. It's self-evident. You know, whether you pay someone $15 an hour or $100,000 an hour, it's going to still have the same rarity. All of these items are true to that. Any of these are all, it's already done. Rarity is inherent to its ethos, to what it is, to everything about it. So at the end of the day, this idea of chasing condition has all these other peripheral problems where you have these potential risks, especially like that whole thing that's going on blowout forums right now with the black labels in sports. There's a guy who has an ungodly amount of black labels graded. It's literally impossible. Even if you have eagle eye, enter the matrix, and you can just go in there and pick out the best condition cards from packs, it's impossible to not only have that many cards printed to that consistency, but also access that many. So you have that element there where it's like this contrived element going on. Keep in mind, black labels are only a few years old. It's not something that's been around since the beginning of third-party grading, and you're talking a 1.75% difference between that and the normal BGS 10 pristine. So at the end of the day, that's the inherent game you're playing, is that there's this element of subjectivity, and within that you have these peripheral elements that can change, like quality of the company, who they're hiring. Is there some element of corruption? None of this is a factor for rarity. It's, again, self-evident. That's why I might always be focusing on rarity. I might have said that a couple times. I might have said that a few times. So if you came to me and said, hey, what would you spend with 10K? My initial response would be, yeah, stuff like this, the stuff that I'm actually buying, alpha rares, maybe a booster box, things like that, cards like this. That's the stuff I'm going to chase with that type of money because I'm looking for that value option. Remember, price is what you pay, value is what you get. I could afford to spend $10,000 every time I go get a loaf of bread or something, but obviously the value isn't there. If I'm spending $10,000 for something that can be made into infinity, essentially, I probably need to reassess what I'm doing. So that's my overall view on the high grade premiums, is that a lot of times people are in danger of buying a label. And again, you're in this somewhat of a paradox or catch-22 where people can say, well, it's subjective, but that doesn't mean it's all bad. That means there is this element here that needs to be examined, and I think that examination needs to be constant. But at the end of the day, PSA 10 is good. You want this grading scale. I would argue definitely the black label is contrived, in my opinion, especially when you go down the subgrades and you look at all the notches there in the line and how many meticulous, negligible differences there are. If you took like a pristine card and black label and you cracked them and tried to grade them 10 times, how many times would they hit consistently at the first grade, the first designated grade? So that's the game you play when you chase condition, is that sometimes you do chase labels and it can lead you down the path of Mega Full Art Charizard. But you know, it's still early days with Hidden Fates. The thing I will close with is that Hidden Fates is a very exciting set. I think it's the most exciting modern set. Shiny GX, Japanese equivalent, and Hidden Fates English release is very exciting. I think it's a beautiful set. It's the most exciting set. Shining Legends was similar to that. This one is like a Shining Legends on steroids. Very exciting thing to collect, to open. But at the end of the day, if you're paying that high graded premium, just be wary because this has only been out a week. We got a long road ahead of us. There's more planned releases. We'll see how it plays out, but it's inherently speculative to throw that type of money around. But there it is, guys. That's what I'll give you. One more example that I could think of is maybe Worlds cards. You know, we're talking about pre-release Clefable. Worlds cards are twofold. Older, rare, mint, or better. They actually have rarity to them. They're limited to some extent. Not like your God tier gold card, but they're limited and they have difficulty to grade because they're handed out in person. You know, I've graded majority of those cards. Majority of the pop is me because I just love those cards. But I can name like all the PSA 10s on one hand because they're difficult to grade and they have some rarity to them. So that's just another off-the-cuff example where it makes sense if you're paying that high-grade premium because they are not easy to grade. So there it is, guys. A little bonus example there before the end. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you are excited about Hidden Fates. I know I am for Modern. It's given a breath of fresh air. Even all this rip it and flip it stuff that's happening right now, it's crazy. It's crazy. We thought Poliwags were doing flips. It's like, it's unreal. Like, we're hitting light speed right now, but it's exciting at the end of the day. People are excited about the set. Just be wary of that high-grade premium. And, yeah, you guys know the deal. Let me know how you feel. That's pretty much it. Till next time.